there's two movies being played, and everyone will see the exact either the woman was trying to get away and she was murdered by the SICE agent, and clearly, I'm using in quotes, that's what everyone can see, or the other one, which is she was trying to hit him, and anyone, ICE agent or regular person, if you're trying to hit me with a car, has a right to shoot in self-defense and should very reasonably be scared for their lives in that moment. And we could all see the same footage, and people are seeing two exactly opposite things. And it is kind of scary that this, I think, and social media is there to validate your perception and to call you crazy and evil if you're seeing the other one. And things are getting more and more in this direction of perception in this country, especially as AI gets smarter and tailors your news to your personal preferences and keeps your eyeballs on that screen. This is where politics is going, and this is unprecedented historically, and I don't know what it's going to look like, and I doubt you do either, because we're crossing bridges here that have never been built before.
This is where politics is going. Let me just challenge you on that. Not because I think you're wrong. I just kind of want to put it to the test. Have we not had examples in history that we can learn from where you've had a populace living through two separate realities? That's what you've described, even looking at the same world, looking at the same objective world or video, still living in two different realities. Have we not seen that in the past somewhere, and therefore have some indication of where this might be headed?
Let's look at slavery, right? You'll have the North who regarded slavery as, or Northerners who regarded slavery as barbaric. You had Southerners who saying it's not that bad. This is, natural, so on and so forth. But they really weren't arguing over what the facts were. They were arguing over the interpretation. I think we're at a point now, and I mean, the ability to see data is only pretty recent. I mean, the television was around, what, 30s and 40s, so on and so forth. Now to have ubiquitous cameras, that's very recent historically. I don't see when this could have been the case, because back in the day, if you're going to have news, it's going to be in the newspaper, it's going to be in a book, meaning it's filtered through someone. So that person is going to give you their interpretation of the facts or what facts are important, relevant to the story. Now we're having access to the raw data, and we're seeing different things. I don't see how this could have happened before.
Yeah, and you don't know where it's headed.
Right.
Which is kind of a scary proposition. Because, one of the conversations I thought about having with you today, and I like that nothing we've talked about so far really has been planned, is how old were you when you moved from the Soviet Union?
1.5.
So you don't have a great amount of memory of it. You probably have some institutional memory of it, some generational memory of it.
That's right.
With your parents and your fraudster grandparents. But you you have some institutional and generational experience with, we'll call it, a totalitarian state. At some point, totalitarianism and total communism are indistinguishable from one another. It's just whether or not, fascism and communism really are, they're right there next to each other on the political circle, not on a straight line graph, right? What's it matter if it's one dude versus a Politburo of dudes, right? It just doesn't matter.
Can I run
it's
you
an
Reagan's
all-encompassing.
joke?
Go ahead.
There were two Russians walking around, and one of them goes, "Is this it? Have we finally achieved full communism?" The other one goes, "Oh no, it gets much worse."
But what? So I am, like you, by the way. I am intrigued by what people that see something different than me see in what they believe. I'll have really harsh condemnation and hard words for a Maxwell Frost who comes onto the Will Cain show, and I'll debate him, or a Jacob Fry who I think is saying outlandish things, or Tim Waltz who I actually think is incurring this type of violence towards the enforcement of law. But I'm sympathetic, or I'm at least curious about those who genuinely see it differently than me. And I do wonder if they don't see federal law enforcement presence in Minneapolis as some vision of a totalitarian state, and see, that either Patrick, your big fan, he's like, this is actually how totalitarianism happens. It happens in response to chaos. The chaos can be natural or it can be astroturfed. It can be created, but the chaos helps feed the potential totalitarianism.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like Rahm Emanuel said, never let a good emergency go to waste. So I can steelman their argument. If I wanted to get to totalitarianism, this would be one of the steps I would need to take. I would need to have people accept the idea of federal agents in every city, pulling people into cars. That would be a necessary step. Now, I'm sure you're going to say, and people watching this going to say, "What are you talking about? These are illegal immigrants. They have no right to be here," and they're correct. But the point is, the leftists are correct that if you're going to get to that end goal, you would need to drive through here to get to there, to get people to have it be accepted normally to have these kind of federal heavily armed troops in a kind of pervasive sense.
But my argument back to them, and I fully appreciate that the arguments aren't what we're talking about. We're talking about the world of perception and how people see things. Is you've got those federal troops implementing democratically elected laws. Like, these laws are on the books, voted on by the people. They're not, the whim of President Donald Trump. He's simply doing what really every president should have done before him, which is, as is the executive branch, execute the democratic laws.
Yeah, but now you're making their argument, which is, but you see, Will, these laws are optional. And the fact that no other president enforced them means they're not really a big deal. And the fact that this is their argument, don't yell at me, the fact that President Trump is choosing to enforce them is boiling that pot with the frog and getting people acclimated to the idea of having their home raided. How about this? Patriot Act. We were told the Patriot Act's for terrorists. 5 minutes later, it's for every American, right? So if I were a Democrat and I wanted to make it the case, Beto O'Rourke, that it's going to be okay that I'm going to go to your house and take your guns, well, first step, I would have it okay that you have agents everywhere taking illegals. And now when people get used to that, they're going to get used to the agents. It's not going to be hard for me to turn that switch and get it from illegal aliens to illegal guns. So that's their thought. Not that they're against illegal guns, but my point is that is the process that I would need to go through.